Hey everybody, how's it going? Barry here, and today we're finally gonna talk about Kiki. Um, there is no specific reason why I was putting off this video. I just never got the chance to do it and didn't really. I even for like the first half of the month, I completely forgot that like I hadn't made a Kiki video. I thought I did, but Mocha 1020 has kindly reminded me that I did not, and so we're here today to do just that. So yeah, thanks Mocha, shout out to you. This video is for you. But yeah, let's get right into it. So yeah, for those that don't know, well, seeing as we're already pretty much done with April, it's only a week left. You probably realized Kiki was in the rebirth for the 3-star rebirth. Of course, of the fire, water, wood, all the elements, you know. But anyway, we'll start off with fire as we always do. Here's the Evo 1, super cute. Evo 2, still super cute. Evo 3, super cute, edging into waifu material, you know. Definitely love the cat girl maid aesthetic all into one. Super great, super great. But anyway, let's take a look real quick. So here's the regular and the variant. I like them both. I'm gonna go with the regular just because I like the red hair, and it also has like purple as well, purple highlights, so very, very nice. Looking at the stats, she is a balance type, and for a Nat 3, her stats are pretty good overall for a balance type, so no complaints there. Looking at her leader skill, before anything, it is fighting spirit, so 30 to 35% attack increase, but it is limited to the Tower of Chaos. For Fire Kiki, that would have been useful before the Tower of Chaos rework a while back. Back when it was only 50 floors, or was it 70 floors? I don't remember. But back then, there was a use for Fire Kiki there. But before we get into that, let's look at our skills. So on 3-star, we have Shield Breaker, and skill books give a 25% damage boost there. Then on 5-star, we have Defense down 70% 2 turns. Skill books make it 80% and give a 20% damage boost there. Where you'd want to use her, so as of now, there's only one place where she really has any use, and that is Fire Colossus, just because Shield Breaker is a very limited skill in usage. In the past, it used to be useful for Tower of Chaos. I believe it was floor 40 that had it was either 35 or 40 where it had a Fire Cura as the boss there, and her shield was unbreakable, or not unbreakable, it was like, the HP cap on it was insanely high, so you couldn't just outdamage it, you needed Shield Breaker for it. But of course they reworked Tower of Chaos, so that's no longer a thing, it's no longer needed. So now Shield Breaker is only used against the Fire Colossus. Now, if you do have a full like water nuking team for Fire Colossus, you don't need Shield Breaker, of course. But for those that don't have strong enough water mons to get to the dungeon like that, she is definitely very useful for her Shield Breaker there. Though I would recommend Water Bulby instead, because Water Bulby, of course, has elemental advantage in that dungeon, whereas Kiki is just neutral there. And then, of course, Bulby also has Unflinching Strike on their 5-star, which also helps with damage. But that's besides the point. You can use her there, and if you were, it doesn't really matter how you build her. I would definitely go like more of a tanky sort of setup for her, so HP defense or HP defense, just so she can live long enough to get off the Shield Breaker when it's needed. And then, of course, the defense down can be nice as well, just to speed up your run a little bit, in case you're not able to do enough damage without it. But that's pretty much it for Fire Kiki, and let's move on to Water. And we'll scroll down as quickly as possible, as we always do. So here we are. Again, super cute. It's kind of like those heroes from My Hero Academia. I don't remember their names, but like that whole team that had the cat made aesthetic thing going. But anyway, here we have Water Kiki, and here's the variant and the regular. Now you guys know that I love blue hair, but I also love pink hair. So I can't have the hair help me decide. So I'm gonna go off the dress, and I like the dress for the variant more. So yeah. Now she is a balanced type, but she doesn't have balanced stats. She is more on the lines of like a weakish tank in terms of her stats, just because her HP is pretty much a lot higher than the rest of her stats, and then like low attack and middle of the road defense. But overall, I'd say her stats, if we're gonna compare her to other balance types, she has a low attack, low defense. If we're to and high HP. But overall, I'd say her stats aren't that great. But let's look at the skills. So on 3-star we have Buff Breaker, sorry, and then on 5-star we have Blind, 70% 2 turns. Now I don't have Water Kiki, so I couldn't check the skill book values, and honestly, it does not matter, just because she doesn't really have a use. You guys know, if you've seen many of my videos, or a few of my videos, very rarely do I say a mon is useless, or would I say just don't use this mon. Water Kiki is one of those few. And that's just because Buff Breaker has no use, ever. There is never a time where you'd want to use Buff Breaker over anything else. Like, there'll be people that are trolling and say, like, oh, you can use it against the Light Colossus to get rid of his recovery up. You don't need it, just get recovery down. You can use it against the Wood Colossus to get rid of that attack down. You can just nuke that boss. Or just SP Siphon to prevent it from getting the attack down in the first place. Attack up in the first place. So yeah, there's never a time where you'd want to use Buff Breaker, and so there's never a time where you're going to want to use Water Kiki. The only thing that I would suggest building her for is just to get the entry in the guide to get those gems, which I think it's like, what, 150 gems or some shit. So that's really all she is useful for, and then after that, you just use her to evolve other elements. I mean, like, you can, if you really want to, you can probably use her for Light Titan just for her blind, but since it's on her 5-star, it's going to be very unreliable. If it was on her 3-star, then maybe she'd be a little bit better for Light Titan, but, like, even then, if she still had Buff Breaker, it'd still be pretty useless. So yeah, not even going to recommend a gem build. We're just going to move right on to Wood. And Wood is probably my favorite of the Kiki, to be honest. She's not the best, but she's my favorite. I love her. Super cute, and I like her kit. So, here's the regular, and the variant. I like them both a lot. I'm going to say I like the variant more just because the pink hair, you know. But yeah, I like them both. Looking at the stats, she's an attacker. She has a good attack stat, a good HP stat, really low defense stat, but kind of typical for Nat 3 attackers. So I'm not going to nitpick too much, but I would like it to be a little bit higher. Kiki for Super Evolution? Yeah, be pretty cool, you know? Pretty cool. But yeah, let's look at her skills. So, mind you guys, I probably sound very tired because I am very tired. I've been up all day, and I worked earlier today, and this is the same day that I recorded the Gilgamesh video, so I'm quite tired. And I recorded Gilgamesh's video like 2 hours ago, or more, like maybe 3 hours ago. Very tired. So, anyway, Wood Kiki. Looking at her skills, on 3-star, we have Petrification, 100% 1 turn on crit, and she gets a 20% damage boost there from skill books. And then on 5-star, we have Hunter, 30% skill books give a 20% damage boost there as well. Now, where you want to use her? She can actually be used in quite a few places. So one, PvP, especially during the 3-star league. get a nice boost. Now, of course, 433 decided to backpedal on their special season for 3 stars a little bit. They did change the stat boost that mons get. Now, they didn't release like what those stat changes were, so I don't have that information. Based on what it was before, she'd have a 120% increase to all of her stats, so she'd do pretty nice there in terms of just as a wood attacker, especially in a water heavy metagame. But now I'm not, well, with based on what they said, they're going to be increasing the attack multiplier that the mons get and lowering the HP and defense multipliers that they get. So she'll be able to do a lot more damage, she'll just have less survivability. So she should still be very useful for the 3-star special season. She just will be more glass cannony than she already is. Where else you can use her? Titans just as a wood damage dealer, but of course she will fall off once you start getting Unflinching Strike, Courageous Strike mons, even if you start getting mons with damage boosting skills on their 3-star, so like Woodmon with Hunter on their 3-star, for example. Wood Mowgli even would do better in Titans than would Kiki. But of course, Wood Mowgli would also fall off in terms of Courageous Strike and Unflinching Strike mods. You can also use her for farming, though keep in mind, Petrification does increase the defense stat of the Petrified Mon by 50%, I believe it is, or 2 times. I don't remember the exact amount. But that can slow your runs down, though. If you do have her on the Siphon sets to where she would be using her Hunter skill more often, that won't really matter too much. She does have a decently fast animation speed, so that's another thing. So she's pretty good for that. And of course that would include GB7 as well, and the Water Stone Dungeon, and then any place with water mons like Seabed Caves or whatever it's called. And then lastly, you can use her at Tower of Chaos, just for floors 80-100, just having that 100% CC going. Very nice there. Though keep in mind, because it is Petrification, you're going to want to make sure she's the last mon to attack in a turn, because you don't want to attack with her first, land that CC, and then half the damage that the rest of your mons do. And that would just slow down your run, of course, and could also cost you, or make you lose, because, of course, I believe the bosses on floors 80 and 100 do have Blessing, and they do have Retribution, so that can cost you if you don't kill them quickly enough. But yeah, how I would build her, she is crit required, so she's definitely going to need a square slot for a crit rate gem, so crit rate attack, or crit rate attack crit damage would be the way to go, and then get your defense and HP from trinkets, of course. Now, let's move on to Light, which is probably the most popular of the Kiki, but honestly, I think she's quite overrated. There's a reason why she's very popular, and I will get into that in a moment. But anyway, looking at the design, or the color scheme, I mean, here's the regular and the variant. You know, it's hard, because I really do like the regular, but the purple hair on the variant is calling to me. So I'm going to go with the variant. So, on to the stats. Sorry if I cut off or whatever I was just saying, because I had to pause the recording. Someone was making a lot of noise. But anyway, looking at her stats, she is a defender. She has a low-ish HP stat for a defender. Normally we like to see them at about 30k HP, which isn't super common for Nat 4s, but it is common enough to where I think it's okay to like ask for it. Her attack stat, though, is a bit higher than we see from Nat 4 defenders, so there's that. Now, the thing that really draws people to like Kiki is her defense stat, because it is much higher than your average Nat 4. It's pretty much in Nat 5 tier of defense stats for defenders, and so that is what a lot of people really love about her. But anyway, let's look at her skills and why I think she's overrated. So on her 3-star, she has Exposed Weakness. It's 70% 2 turns. Skill books make it 80%, give a 20% damage boost. And then on 5-star, we have Shock, 70% 1 turn. Skill books make it 80%, give a 20% damage boost there. So first, we'll just go through, well, actually, never mind. Before we get into where you want to use her, why I think she's overrated is just because her skills don't go together. Shock is amazing for her for her stat spread, and a lot of the places where you'd want to use her, she does very well because of that Shock. But then the Exposed Weakness isn't very helpful in those places. And then it's the other way around with the Exposed Weakness where you'd want to use that. Shock isn't very useful. So she doesn't really excel anywhere just because her skills don't go together. Anyway, now let's talk about where you want to use her. So first, you can use her in PvP, which is where probably most people do. There, the Exposed Weakness isn't super helpful just because where you'd want to use her specifically in PvP is on defense, and then Exposed Weakness is a skill that you would want to control, where it goes and who activates it, which you obviously cannot do with PvP defense. You can't control when it is used in Titans, which is another place where you'd want to use her, but there you can at least know where in the lineup the Exposed Weakness is going to land and which mon is going to activate it based on their animation speeds. But with PvP defense, of course, you cannot control it because you can have the timing right, but then the AI would have the mon that you would want to hit the Exposed Weakness attack a different mon, and so it wouldn't end up using it. And it's happened a lot where I'd see a Kiki on defense, I would attack that team, the Kiki would land the Exposed Weakness on one of my mons, and then nobody would even attack that mon, so the Exposed Weakness would just not be used at all. Though it's worth noting you can use her on offense for the Exposed Weakness, but even then, it's not super great just because, of course, defense teams typically have more resist, and then also it doesn't really provide much of an offensive presence. You know, you'd rather have something that does a strong damage. You'd rather have 2 high damaging mons than a mon with Exposed Weakness and a mon that does damage to hit the Exposed Weakness, if you know what I mean. But where else you'd want to use it besides PvP? As I said, Titans, she can do well there. 80% 2 turn for Exposed Weakness is good, though Shock, of course, is useless in Titans, so that does hold her back there, and you're much better off using something like Light Sherlock or Dark Bulby. Then you can use her against both Dark and Light Colossus for the Exposed Weakness. With both those places, Exposed Weakness is very helpful. If you're going for the nuking method, I do use Exposed Weakness against both those Colossus, though I don't use Kiki, I use my Light Sherlock for both of them, just because Sherlock is 100% 2 turns, whereas Light Kiki only goes up to 80% 2 turns. And yeah, that's going to be it for Light Kiki. How I would build her, though, if I'm going to use her in any of those places, HP defense is definitely the go-to. Her HP does need quite a bit of investment, since it is lower than we'd like to see from Nat 4 defenders, and her defense is high enough that 1 gem is good enough for it. Now, let's move on to Dark, the last of the Kikis, and certainly not least. Where is she? There she is. Alright, so with the regular, I love the purple dress. Very nice. Black hair. Very nice. And the variant. Very nice again. Shit. I love the color schemes overall for the Kikis. I'm going to go with the variant, though, just because it has more purple. Looking at the stats, she's an attacker. She has a good attack stat. Her HP is pretty good as well. Defense is... her defense is good, too. Overall, pretty good stats overall. Looking at her skills... On 3-star, we have Adrenaline, 20%. Skill books make it 25 and give a 20% damage boost. Then on 5-star, we have Predator, 30%. Skill books give a 20% damage boost there. Okay, so where you want to use Dark Kiki? PvP, first off, just as a Dark attacker, very nice. Of course, she excels on offense and just like hitting light teams with a lot of light mons, very good for that. And sure, She is a Dark Mon. You want to build her with crit, though she's not crit reliant, so crit res doesn't hurt her too much. Since, of course, Predator isn't based on whether or not she crits. Then you can, something else for PvP that I've seen people use her for is defense as the hidden mon during special season. And while that does offer, like, the shock factor of, like, just this high damaging mon popping up and hitting you with a very strong attack, as soon as that surprise is known, the opponent will just rematch you and win. So that's something to keep in mind. It might get you some wins, but it also might get you some losses, just because attackers built offensively usually don't do well on defense teams. But I should also point out she does hit a lot harder than I would expect. There have been times where she would pop up as the hidden and just, like, wipe my team. Well, not, like, wipe my team, but do, like, significant damage to where it pretty much cost me the match. But then I would just rematch and then, like, make sure she doesn't end up getting the chance to hit me. So that's something to keep in mind. Then also you can use her for farming, of course. Specifically content with Light Mon, she does very well, so like Star Sanctuary, and then DB10 as well. She's able to have some sustainability on herself with her adrenaline, though it would be nicer if that was HP Siphon instead of adrenaline, just because she would be able to heal herself for more, because of course the adrenaline is limited to 20% of her HP, whereas HP Siphon is based on the damage she would have done, like we see with Fire Succubus and whatnot, who can heal themselves from full depending on how much damage they do. Then you can also use her in Titans just as a dark damage dealer, but of course she will fall off as you get Unflinching Strike, Courageous Strike Mons, and of course Mons that have damage increasing skills on their passive, on their 3-stars, like Dark Mowgli. I always use Dark Mowgli as an example for that, because Dark Mowgli is a good Mon to use as an example for a Mon with a damage increasing skill on their 3-star. Then, of course, you can use her against the Light Colossus, just as a dark attacker, though she will fall off for the same reasons. As I said with Titans, you would rather have the Mon with a damage boosting skill on their 3-star. And then you can also use her in Dark Colossus, but this would only be if you're not going with a nuking method. This would be if you're going with the HP, with like a passive healer method of having your Mons just heal themselves, since she does have that adrenaline to keep her alive a little bit. And how I would build her, I would build her completely offensively. Crit rate attack, crit rate attack, crit damage. Preferably crit rate attack, just because she does already have that base 100 crit damage, so she doesn't need much crit damage. You'd probably be better off getting crit damage from substats, just to like balance out the HP and the attack and crit damage increase. You can throw a survivability gem if you want, but of course I always recommend getting survivability from trinkets. But if you do, I would recommend putting an HP gem over a defense gem, just because of course her adrenaline is based on her max HP, so she will be healing more the more HP she has. Now, let's prioritize the Kikis. So first off, I'm going to put Dark as the number one you should go for. She is definitely the most versatile and the best at what she does out of all the Kikis. I am going to my box because I do have a wood Kiki built. Oh, wow, I don't have her built. I must have taken her gems off her. No! Ah, man. I did have her built, guys. I did. I swear. She was here for a reason. I don't have any of the other Kikis built, though, unfortunately. But anyway, let's go back to this prioritizing. So Dark first, then I put Wood second, for the same reasons. And also, it might be personal bias. You know, I am biased towards attackers, and I do like Kiki's kit overall. Then, next I would put Light, because Light, while her skills don't go together too much, they're still both really good skills, and she has good stats. And then, next I would put Fire, because she does her Shield Breaker does have a use, even though it's a very limited one. And then last, I would of course put Water, just because Buff Breaker has 0 use anywhere. There's never a time where you're going to want to use Buff Breaker over any other skill. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Sorry if I've been a little bit less energetic. than my usual videos. Again, I am very tired. But I really did want to record this video now while I had the chance to do so. Tomorrow, I do have the day off from work, but I am going to be busy pretty much all day. So, got shit to do. Even during this quarantine times, still have things to do. Well, it's not really big things to do. I have some catching up to do with a friend I haven't been able to communicate with for a while. So, yeah. Don't worry, guys. I am going to, of course, stay safe, as always. Social distancing, everything like that. We're just going to stay in. But, yeah. That's a little bit for you guys that are interested in me as a person. But anyway, past my content. But, yeah. Have yourselves a good day, guys. Like, subscribe, all that. You want to stay updated for future videos. I promise you, I am more energetic than this usually. Have yourselves a good day, as I said, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.